what's up? Welcome back to another early edition here on the West Coast, a little bit later in the morning on the East Coast to the mandatory. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, follow us on our social media channels. We're at the mandatory TKO. And if you got a couple of minutes and wherever you find your shows, podcasts, you can find us there as well on the audio side. So leave us a rate and review, give us a 5-star. Lots to get into. The last crescendo. This card is absolutely stacked. And a little bit of drama as well because Shakur Stevenson has a new opponent. How excited are you for that? We're going to get into everything. I think consensus is people aren't excited, but we are going to get into that. Before we do, though, Brian, been a pretty busy week. How has your week been? How was your weekend, man? I know we're almost about to head into another weekend, but this is our first show this week.
It's been busy. Today is actually going to be my busiest day of the week, which things could be worse, obviously, but it's a lot of work. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. We get to talk about boxing again. This card is stacked. I think overly stacked. We'll talk about that. And yeah, if you're watching, comments, questions, super chats, as always. There's a lot to get to, and a lot of people are very, very excited about this card on Saturday.
Yeah, before we got on, I legit said to Brian, inject it into my veins because we're like going
You
through the
did.
card. And I kept on forgetting how stacked this card was. But, Brian, I think we have to start off with the first fight because this is arguably was one of the best fights last year, some controversy. And we're getting it again. Artur Beterbiev and Dmitry Bivol. Now, remember, this fight came down to the championship rounds. Personally, lots of controversy. I think some people thought Dmitry Bivol won, and some people thought Artur Beterbiev did enough to get the victory by decision. And we're getting a second fight for this, which I think is totally warranted. Brian, when we're taking a look now, and we'll get into the odds and whatnot, but your thoughts on the second fight, and do you see it going any differently than the first?
I've struggled with this a lot, actually. So I had Bivol the first time going into the fight, and I thought he won the fight. If you want, we could pull up the punch stats and sort of look through and relive this, so to speak, because I do have them on my laptop here somewhere because I was just looking at them yesterday. And as a reminder of how that fight went, at least statistically, I may have been convinced though during the week that better PF might actually be better in the rematch. So I talked to Raheem Palmer from The Ringer about this, who's one of the only other people who covers the NBA and boxing like I do. And he was like, look, sometimes in the rematch, like the guy who won the first time just gets better because the second guy who lost has to make more adjustments. I'm like, that's interesting because I think if Dmitry Bivol is going to win this fight, and you're going to see where I'm coming from here, Shantelle. If Dmitry Bivol is going to win this fight, he has to take more chances. Because I thought he won the first fight, to be clear, but it wasn't scored that way. And I don't know how the judges are going to be this time around. I don't know if it's going to be scored similarly, where Artur Beterbiev is rewarded on the aggression, even if his output wasn't as efficient. But Bivol kind of gave it up in the last 3 rounds where he was a little inactive. It wasn't as bad as Oscar De La Hoya versus Felix Trinidad, but he gave up the last 3 rounds where he was overly defensive. And Artur Beterbiev, to his credit, like he pushed it further and had some of his best work late. So if Dmitry Bivol is in a position where, okay, I have to take more chances against Artur Beterbiev, then it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like, can he survive being in the ring a second time with Artur Beterbiev while taking these chances? I don't know. So I was Bivol by decision um 2 days ago. And since then, I'm kind of like, man, am I gonna bet Artur Beterbiev? And if I do bet Artur Beterbiev, it would be on the money line. Like I don't know if it's the money line's decent enough where it's like minus 130 or whatever, where it's like, all right, cool. I don't have to sweat that piece of it. I always think this is a fight you can bet whoever you want on majority decision, on split decision, also draw. Like this is going to be close. But if Beterbiev has to take more chances, it's going to leave him open, and I worry about that for him. I mean, Bivol is going to have to take more chances. Excuse me.
Yeah, and you take a look at the line, and I'm taking a look at one prominent sports book, and it has shifted a little bit, not too much, but Artur Beterbiev is a minus 125 and Dmitry Bivol is a plus 100. So the odds are very close. The first fight was very close. In the first fight, my bet was right. I said that Artur Beterbiev would win by decision. That was like a plus 750 at the time, which was, I think, arguably like one of my best bets last year. But I also felt like Dmitry Bivol won that fight, unfortunately. And so when it comes to the second fight, I thought Dmitry Bivol, Brian, fought the most perfect fight that he could against Artur Beterbiev, but Artur Beterbiev was able to get it done, especially in those championship rounds, and they gave him the win. And even though there was some controversy, I look back at that fight and I thought Bivol fought the most perfect fight. So what does he have to do? His work rate has to get a little bit more higher. His counter punching, maybe he also throws the double jab. But I just think that Artur Beterbiev gets the win, because if Dmitry Bivol already fought his best fight, what more can he do? And I think by now Artur Beterbiev has downloaded all the information that he needs to off Dmitry Bivol, and he's going to look even better in this second fight. I think there's a very big possibility that happens. And I think this time he might be able to land a very, very heavy shot that maybe even, makes Dmitry Bivol stumble a little bit. The thing about Artur Beterbiev that a lot of people don't talk about, we know that he has power, but he also has skill. He also has one of the best jabs in boxing, and he does not get credit for that. People just talk about how scary his power is. Now, he is sneakily old. And one day you could wake up and you could just not have it. And this happens in every sport. I don't think, Friday morning or Saturday morning that happens to Artur Beterbiev, but I'm not God. I don't know. But I do know that Artur Beterbiev is probably going to look better than he did in the first fight. So I'm going to rock with Beterbiev winning by decision. And this time around, it's a plus 225. I don't think Dmitry Bivol gets knocked out, but he's definitely going to be trying to take more chances. He's definitely going to be putting himself in positions where he's going to try to counter more. And I do think he's going to try to throw the double jab more, because he's going to have to against Artur Beterbiev. Beterbiev is just so skilled. And, it sets up an interesting matchup for the future, because if Dmitry Bivol gets it done, we've seen Bivol be hella tight with Turk. You never know what could happen on the scorecards, okay? If we wanted to get a third fight, a trilogy fight, possibly.
Yeah.
I just think Bivol, he did all he could do in that first fight. And I sat here after the first fight, like, what more can he do? I don't think he could do any more, man. I think Beterbiev wins again. And listen, if he does, it just gives Beterbiev more greatness under his belt, right? And more cachet around his name. And he's just a guy that I don't think anyone's going to knock out or stop. That's how I feel right now. We got a couple of comments really quickly. Jesus, good friend of the show, joining the show. Happy Thursday. I can't believe it's Thursday. This week has flown by. And we're going to get to this a little bit later, but I just want the truth says. From the open workout, it looked cold out there. Caballel barely let his hands go and was out of breath in the interview afterwards. That can play a part in the fights. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird, because we'll get to that later, but mentally, anything can mess you up in a fight. But Brian, with that being said, like, we're both taking Beterbiev to
I'm
win.
leaning that way. It's more of a lean for me.
Yeah, I was surprised, because I know you were very.
I generally favor the counterpuncher here, but at the same time, you hit the main point, which is like, all right, what more can Bivol do? If we think he fought a perfect fight, and many people live just coming away from it thought he won the fight. I know at least one prominent, I guess, boxing analyst, we'll call him, has flipped on his decision in terms of he had Bivol winning and then flipped and rewatched it and was like, no, Artur Beterbiev won this. And I think we can fall into the trap of overly rewarding aggression. But those last 3 rounds, Bivol did not, he wasn't active enough with his hands. And it's like, all right, if what more can you do ultimately comes down to you have to take more chances. And then the question is, can Dmitry Bivol hurt Artur Beterbiev. I don't know. Like, he can
I don't
tag
think
him.
so.
He can tag him. He did that in the first fight.
Yeah,
Like, he threw every time you think he's done with the combination, and then he's got another 1-2 in your face. Like, he'll throw 4 punches, and then he'll pause really quickly to just collect himself and make sure he's in range. And then right when you're about to throw, because you think it's your turn, my turn, he's throwing again. Then it's like, oh shit, this wasn't part of the agreement. Like Dmitry
yeah.
Bivol just catches you slipping in that way. But can he hurt Artur
No.
Beterbiev? I don't know. Like,
No, I
that's the
don't think
thing.
so. We gotta shut up because Tyrone the Great just donated. Whenever you donate to the show, we can put your
Mm,
comments up right away. Thank you, Tyrone. Tyrone has donated to the show consistently, Brian. He's one of our good friends of the show. Thanks so much,
yes,
Tyrone.
we love
He
Tyrone.
said the Super Bowl of boxing better be Eb. Most rematches go the same way. Usually, yeah, because it's like if you won that first time,
You
you're
know what
probably
it
going to win the
takes.
second time
You
because
know what
you
it
know you
takes.
know what you have to do in order to beat your opponent. And here's the thing, Beterbiev was coming off a knee surgery in that fight. He's healthier now. He might be
Also
sneakily
older,
older,
but yes.
but like you just never know. Like he doesn't look like he fell off. And we're gonna talk later on about the undercard. And there's a couple of guys that I think didn't have the best performances in their last fight.
Yeah.
However, I just think Beterbiev has it in the bag, and he's going to get it done again. And it
Mm.
makes for a very interesting fight next. Let us know. Drop your comments. Who do you have for this rematch? Do you have Beterbiev? Do you think Bivol ends up avenging his loss? Because that's the only loss on his record. How do you see this going? Do you see it being even closer than it was? Maybe a draw? Drop your comments. We will read them. And of course, if you're watching this after the fact, drop your comments still because we will get to them. Brian, any final thoughts before we move on to the co-main?
No, I just think it's going to be an awesome fight. And I think it could be maybe have a little more action than the first fight did, which I think fight fans would appreciate. I'm just not sure that works in Dmitry Bivol's favor, but we'll see.
You know what's crazy? I was like sitting down thinking, and I was like, if Beterbiev was able to get the decision the first time, Bivol taking more chances, does Beterbiev have? He does have a chance to knock him out. We've never seen it happen. Bivol's never been
Hmm.
knocked out, but there is a chance that if that knee is strong now, like
Yeah,
if he
no,
did that on a bad knee,
seriously. Yeah.
it's possible. But drop your comments below. Do you think Beterbiev could knock out Dmitry Bivol? It's never happened before.